I've been thinking, it's funny to me how I could come on here on YouTube and talk about an actual project that I did, right? I just finished shooting a short film for somebody. It's kind of like an episodic, I don't really know how to explain it. It's definitely a movie. I did it for a sculptor, a woman who's an artist. And what's interesting is that, all this drama is going on YouTube in the camera, filmmaking space. Who can you trust, with the Panasonic S9 and all that. And I think people are more interested in that than actual projects. Like, I also have a screening. My feature film that I finished just recently became an official selection at the Manhattan Film Festival, right? So it's being shown at Cinema Village in Manhattan, which is a legendary theater. And it's a big deal, it's fun. I'm from New York City, so for me it's amazing to have this premiere of my film in New York City in Union Square. That's pretty cool. And for those who care, it's June 19th. It's at 9 p.m. Go to my website, rockwilk.com, or go to thisistheendforme.com, and you'll see the link there where you can buy tickets. They're only $12. There's a talk back. That's going to be cool. But is anybody even remotely interested in that at YouTube? Or the short film that I just finished, which was such a dope project. We went to all these cool locations, had a really interesting character in this amazing outfit, somebody who's doing meaningful work about cleaning up the earth and how we're destroying the earth. And I think people are much more apt to want to watch a video about one YouTuber attacking another YouTuber, about whether or not they're having integrity with their, camera reviews. And it's like, how are you going to accuse somebody of not having integrity or, not being, believable or trustworthy just because they're making money? I think anybody who's being pejorative or judging anybody else in that way on YouTube is a fraud, because everybody on YouTube is trying to make money. Everybody. Anybody who gets offered a deal with Panasonic or Sony or Fuji or Canon or whatever, and if those companies say, look, I'm going to give you money to do a review, of course you're going to take it. And of course you're going to try to make it positive, because they just acknowledged your work. They acknowledged you and your big following, and you're going to try to show it in its best light. And, so hopefully you'll be as honest as you can, but you're certainly not going to slam it. And you can't be completely objective. I mean, I don't know, maybe you can, but I don't know why you would be if they're paying you, If they're offering you a trip to Japan for free to go hang out with a bunch of cool people, other creators who, are like-minded, who have interests similar to you, who you're obviously going to get along with, that's a beautiful experience. All of these people who are fighting with one another now, it's it's typical of what's going on in society in general right now, not to get into politics or anything, but I feel like people who are living in the same place are just starting to eat each other and try to tear the whole thing down and just destroy each other. The camera review space is a nice space. If you want to see a review about a lens or a camera or lights or a gimbal or whatever, you can, choose from a plethora of videos. Almost every one of them is going to be good and interesting and have something. And so maybe somebody will misspeak here and there. Who cares? Because if you're buying something, you need to do your own due diligence, right? You need to do your own research. You need to speak to somebody who maybe has used that camera. You need to really think about what you require for the work that you're doing and what tool is going to enable you to do that. Which kind of brings me back to what I was talking about at the beginning. It's all about the projects that you do. Whether you're working on weddings or a movie for HBO or for theaters or whatever, it's all the same. It's you're creating art, right? You're creating work, with a camera. You're creating visual. You're trying to make things look beautiful. So depending upon what you're doing, whether you're a sports, videographer or cinematographer or whatever, or you're making narrative films, you're doing documentaries, you all have different needs. So pick a camera that fits your needs. But, do the research, because the truth is, all the cameras are good. I mean, I'm shooting this on a GH5 right now, Panasonic GH5. This camera is 7 years old. Came out in 2017. I just bought it on eBay for 475 bucks. This is a massively, like, useful camera. I could do anything with this camera. I think the only thing that it doesn't do well is probably, you know, autofocus for video. But I'm not somebody who does that anyway, really. You know, all of my work is with vintage lenses and anamorphic lenses, so I don't really care about that. But if you're doing a lot of work that requires autofocus, don't use this camera. Get the S5 2X or get a Sony A7S3 or an FX3 or, you know, one of the other great cameras. They're all great. But this whole thing that's going on with the S9 is so silly and sad, actually, because, you know, people who would probably get along so well, who maybe, I don't know if they know each other well or if they don't know each other all that well, but like going after one another. I watched a couple of videos where people are really going after each other, you know, like they want to throw hands with each other over camera reviews. Seriously? Like, well, it ain't all that deep. You know, nobody's out here curing cancer. You know, nobody is out here doing anything that's really contributing to society in a way that's, you know, changing people's lives in terms of poverty and illness and homelessness and things like that. Like, let's face it, you know, unless you're doing real projects, documentary work, narrative work that really contributes to society, because art heals for real. Like, art is so important. Like, we have a great opportunity to contribute to society, but not through going after each other like who has integrity with a camera review. That's some bullshit. That's just petty little stuff. That's like, you know, thinking that you're much more important than you really are in this YouTube space. Who cares? You know how many amazing artists there are, cinematographers, photographers, actors, you know, technicians, whatever. Like, you know how many amazingly gifted artists there are who don't even ever go on YouTube. Like, you don't even know who they are. I know so many amazing people that I work with, you know, professionally, who are, they don't even look at YouTube, let alone create things on it. You know, I use YouTube because it's great practice and it's fun. I like doing it, you know, but I don't have a lot of followers, you know, and I don't think I do all the things that are necessary to look at YouTube as a business and be professional at YouTube. But, you know, I do the best I can. I try to respect the people that actually are kind enough to take the time to come to watch my channel. I'm not going to disrespect you and just throw up some bullshit. You know, I'm going to make some kind of an effort. I'm going to throw up some of these lights in the background and make it look somewhat presentable. But I'm going to talk about stuff that I want to talk about, that I think is meaningful, you know? And I am certainly not going to attack anybody else on YouTube for what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're saying. Like, that's just, like, who are you? Like, who made you the gatekeeper of the YouTube space? That's just crazy. And, you know, it also kind of reeks of, you know, these people, you know, with the advent of the internet, who sit behind their keyboards and their screens and make these bold kind of, you know, comments or statements, or take these bold stands in a way that they would never do if they were in person with somebody. Because being in person and dealing with real energy with somebody is a whole different story than just spewing to your, you know, talking to your own camera. And, you know, I think you lose a certain amount of empathy doing that. I mean, what, you know, what's the point? You know, what's the contribution? How is that something that's adding to any of us, you know? What's the big deal? It's just sad. It's much better when somebody does a cool lens review or a camera review, or talks about gimbals, or, you know, like right now I'm using the Hollyland Lark Max. You know, I have it under my sweatshirt and I'm using the receiver, and I've been having problems with it because it, like, I bought the single one because I didn't need the whole thing, so I don't have the charging case. And so sometimes it loses pairing, and it's driving me crazy, and I don't know if it's worth it. However, the fact that this little microphone can record all by itself is worth the price to me. So there's my review of the Hollyland Lark Max. It sounds great too. You know, like, I know it's not 32-bit float, but the way that it records to the, like when I record directly to the receiver, I mean to the microphone, it sounds incredible when I get into DaVinci Resolve. And the fact that I can put the receiver on the camera and just have it in camera, and when it does work, that's convenient. Although, to be honest with you, like syncing audio to your video takes like 3 seconds. You know, just clap or get a slate, or like, it takes 3 seconds. It's not a big deal. So I have a Zoom H1N. The only reason I bought this is because my Zoom broke. I dropped it like 12 million times. And plus, I keep pulling the cable out for my lavalier mic, and you know, I lose audio by accident because I got these long cables, and it's a pain in the ass. However, I shot 2 feature films with the Zoom H1N and my Purple Panda lavalier mic with those cables, hiding the cables, making it work. So it's not really a big deal. I mean, I bought this even though I didn't really need it, and I could have just bought another Zoom H1N. I mean, mine is all taped up, and you know, I got like, you know, rubber bands keeping it together, and it's crazy. But the sound quality on that Zoom H1N is off the charts. 24-bit, 96 kilohertz pro audio. But this sounds incredible too, so I'm good with it. But I digress. I just kind of wanted to talk about that, you know, like, it's sad to me and kind of unfortunate that these, you know, grown people, like adults, going after each other about this stuff. It's not a big deal. And don't think you're the gatekeeper, no matter how many followers you have, no matter how great you are, no matter how, like, you know, competent you are at this space. You ain't the gatekeeper. It ain't all about you. And it's not really for you to judge anybody else, you know? I mean, people at the end of the day who are receiving these videos, they're the ones who have to be responsible enough to do their own due diligence, because anything you watch on the internet is up for, you know, your own due diligence. I'll say it again. Anything, whether it be cameras, running shoes, politics, science, you know, healthcare, whatever. Whatever you see on the internet, you have no idea at this point. Like, there's so much misinformation. People can go on here. Anybody could set up a camera and say anything and do anything. And if they speak well and if they're like good at doing this, somebody out there is going to believe them. You know, you could say the world is flat. And if somebody, you know, if that resonates with somebody, they're going to believe it. You could say, you know, Los Angeles just fell into the ocean yesterday, and somebody's going to call their friend and go, yo, you heard what happened? I mean, if you're buying a camera, yeah. If I needed, like, my main camera is a Panasonic S5. I did watch a ton of videos because I was upgrading from the Sony a6400, because I was getting ready to do a project where I felt like I wanted to work with a full frame camera. Did I really need to? No. I did want 10-bit because I wanted to go deeper with my color grading. I wanted to have more dynamic range, and I was working a lot at night. And so I felt like full frame was going to help me better. I wanted something with a dual native ISO, and I wound up with a Panasonic S5. At first, I was thinking about getting an FX3 or an A7S3, but you know, some of the YouTubers who I watch, like Patrick Tommaso and some of these other guys, they really did resonate with me. And so what I did was I rented the camera for a couple of weeks, the S5, because it just kept coming up, and it was incredible. And so I bought it, and I saved myself like $3,000 practically. And you know what? I love that camera. I mean, there's nothing I can't do with my S5. And I'm talking about the original, the OG S5. Not that Mark II, not the 2X. And I'm sure they are incredible cameras, magnificent, beautiful, amazing. But so is my S5, and so is this GH5. And I got this GH5, like I said, just recently, because I needed a backup and a second camera for something. I got it for $475. Then I bought 2 lenses, a Mikey 35mm f1.4 and a Ttartisans 17mm f1.4, or f1.2, I think, I'm not sure. But those cost me like $150 combined, like less. One of them was 65 bucks, the other one was 75 bucks, and they look incredible. I'm using a 17mm right now. It looks great. They're awesome. You know, I use vintage lenses all the time, so I ain't about like trying to get G-Master lenses or the highest quality lenses, because sharpness is not my friend. I'm putting, you know, filters on my lenses all the time. I'm trying to get that movie look, and plus my stuff is kind of retro looking. I'm looking for that old vintage look. So anyway, yeah, I watched a bunch of reviews, and I did my own due diligence, and I spoke to people at the store, and I spoke to as many people as I could who were professionals who worked with a bunch of cameras, and I got as much advice as I could, and then I made my own decision, you know. And so nobody on YouTube is responsible for my decision. Nobody on YouTube forced me to do anything. And it's the same thing with everybody else. Like, you could say whatever you want, but you're not responsible for what other people are going to do. You think you might be, but don't flatter yourself, because you are not, again, the gatekeeper of people buying cameras, you know, and you're not the person who should be overseeing everybody's integrity. I think, you know, I don't know why anybody would go on this space intending to mislead anybody. Nobody's going to do that. If they make a mistake, they make a mistake. If they speak, you know, with conviction about things they don't know about, I've done that before, you know. And then I got called out on it, and I apologized, and I did better, and we learn and we grow together. But nobody has bad intentions in this space. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody. Nobody's trying to trick anybody, and nobody's trying to fool anybody, you know. Everybody's just trying to do the best they can, and everybody, by the way, is just trying to make some money. And so if they're sponsored, if they get free trips, if they get free gear, whatever, and you don't think you could trust them because of that, you should look in the mirror, because you would probably do the same thing that they're doing. So, yeah, don't be judgmental. Don't think that you're any different than anybody else. And you know what? Focus on making actual art, you know. Think about why you're probably not interested in the 2 movies that I just finished as much as you're interested in what I might think of a camera or what anybody else might think of a camera. You might think that my, you know, opinions of cameras or whatever suck, so you go to Gerald Undone, or you go to Make Art Now, or you go to Patrick Tomaso, or whoever you go to. There are so many incredible, unbelievable filmmakers in this space, and I call them filmmakers because what they do is amazing, you know? Or you might go to people like Mark Bone or Danny Gewirtz, who are amazing filmmakers as well, you know? But all I'm saying is, do your own work. Don't do what they tell you to do. Because the other thing is, sometimes somebody is way beyond where you are in terms of their skill, their experience, and so what might be good for them might be way over your head. You know, start small. You know, learn about how to get an image, how to make things look the way you want them to look, how to make a project feel the way you want it to feel. That's what's most important to me. How does it feel? That's what art is. And you know what? Be kind to one another. Have some empathy, you know. Have some compassion. You know, be nice to each other. It ain't that hard. It doesn't cost anything. And, you know, just if you see an issue with somebody or whatever, if you really, really got beef with the way somebody's doing something, then reach out to them directly. Don't do it publicly. There's no reason to do that. Don't try to destroy somebody's reputation, because then all of a sudden you might be taking money out of their pocket, and that is a bad thing. Because at the end of the day, everybody's got to pay their bills. Everybody's got to feed themselves or feed their families. Everybody has a right to make money. So think about that before you attack somebody else with that holier-than-thou kind of attitude, because again, it ain't all about you. And people are responsible for themselves who are watching YouTube. So that's it.